Remember that so far we got 2 molecules of ATP per molecule glucose from glycolysis out in the cytoplasm. We brought those products into the mitochondria and fully oxidize them, strip off all their electrons, convert that sugar to CO2, and get 2 more molecules of ATP. When we go through and do this electron transport chain, we're going to generate 32 molecules of ATP. That's an enormous yield of ATP. And guess what's at the bottom of your electron transport chain? Doing the final act of accepting that electron, keeping the whole electron transport chain moving. It's oxygen. So the reason you're breathing right now, trying to deliver a constant supply of oxygen to the cells in your body, is to keep that electron transport chain running. Because as you can now imagine, you are far more efficient. You are far more able to meet your energetic needs if you can supply oxygen and keep the electron transport chain running. You might know from personal experience that some of the cells in our body, especially our muscle cells, can generate energy during what's called anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic simply means without oxygen. If you have no oxygen present, if you can't deliver it fast enough to those cells, you essentially shut down your electron transport chain. What you have not yet shut down, however, is glycolysis out in the cytoplasm. So you can still do glycolysis. You're going to need a different place to dump your electrons, though. They're not going to the electron transport chain without oxygen. So instead, we dump them into a molecule that ultimately becomes lactic acid in our muscle cells and contributes to that lactic acid burn you might associate with working a muscle anaerobically. Other organisms also do anaerobic respiration. It was probably one of the earliest ways on the planet Earth of getting energy for cells. These include things like yeast that in their fermentation process produce alcohol. We take advantage of them, obviously, in alcohol production, and other things like baking bread. So lots of organisms have a mechanism for anaerobic respiration. Some organisms, that's all we can do, but for most of us, we are far more efficient if we can utilize oxygen and keep these 3 critical steps of cellular respiration functioning optimally. So remember, that's what's going on in our cells, that's what's going on in the plant cells, that's what's going on in the cells of a lowly mushroom, right? All eukaryotes are using their mitochondria to make energy in the same basic process. We're taking sugars, breaking down those molecules, releasing some carbon dioxide, producing some water, consuming all that oxygen, and getting ourselves all of those ATP molecules we need to drive our chemistry. There's a closely related process that builds those sugars in the first place. This is photosynthesis, and I'll be back in our next segment to walk you through that process.